Hi, it's Gab and Dad here with our first annual Picks of the Year, top 3 and bottom 3. Please check out the top 3.
We've just done that. That was fun.
That was fun, and this happens to be the bottom 3, which is
even more fun
in a more disturbing way. And
I like this because this is where I get to do my real grumpy old man thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, even more than usual.
Yeah. But I can really let it hang out.
But it's hard because we can't use bad words and stuff like that, and we have to keep it under 10 minutes. So this was really hard.
There's
but
so
let's just dive right.
I
mean, yeah, I think this year, I don't think anyone would dispute that this year in film has been a bit more on the stinky side, shall we say, than
although a record for box office receipts.
Box office record, but that doesn't correlate with quality.
No,
I mean, there was a lot of the word escapism was thrown in a lot, and the word, escapism usually is often connected with some pretty questionable material. So let's just dive right in.
And what, 3, 2, 1?
Yeah, and we haven't discussed this ahead of time. So, Dad, tell me what your third worst.
I have picked as my third worst movie for 2009 a traditional film, one that has no particular, well, some special effects in it, but it's more of a traditional story. But it's a really lousy story. It's a really dumb film. It goes to the absolute lowest common denominator, and it's called Angels and Demons.
Okay.
A really bad film. It's based
on special effects.
Yeah, a few. That's true. It's a sequel to the Da Vinci Code, sort of. It's that whole Dan Brown thing. Tom Hanks plays Professor whatever his name is. It's a really dreadful, boring, silly, and stupid film. Number 3.
Anything else?
Pretty much covered it, I think.
And quite a few people disagreed with our
initial
assessment.
I think, yes, they did. We got a lot of flack on that one, but I'm sticking to my guns.
That was in my top 3 or worst 3 of the summer, but I let it go in terms of the year, the whole year.
A lot of other bad films crowded.
Yeah, it was really hard for me to choose, and I let it go primarily because we often sort of judge films not just based on initial viewing, but how they stay with us or not. And even though I agree that movie sucked, it didn't really stay with me. I mean, I don't feel offended now.
You didn't sort of wake up at night screaming months afterwards.
I concede that it stinks, but it doesn't sort of offend me continually.
No, you
I
don't
sort of let it go.
You don't think about it in despair for the human race.
No, that was not the first thing that comes to mind. No. So I let it go. So that didn't make my top 3.
Okay, so
my number 3.
Stop
well,
saying
top 3 of the worst.
Yes. Okay. So what was your number 3?
My number 3 was another classic tale called Surrogates.
Oh. The poor man's Avatar.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it came out this fall, as everyone was anticipating Avatar, was just gave an extra nail in the coffin, because it was so unoriginal, so ridiculous, but not even fun ridiculous, like just really insulting ridiculous. The effects, the script, the performances,
so
like it was just. Ugh. I mean, talk about stinker. I mean, this isn't even a fun rental. This is just something that you just sort of...
this is something you want to go in your backyard and dig a hole and put the DVD in it and fill up the hole and forget the whole thing.
Even that takes too much energy. Yeah. Throw it on your nice wintertime fire if you've got it.
Do they burn DVD?
Well, let's find out. This is worth the experiment to find out on this one. Right. So that's my number 3.
All right, well, I can't disagree with that. I hated that film. I mean, I could have easily replaced Angels and Demons with Surrogates, but for some reason, I think it's because it's part of the whole Dan Brown kind of...
Well, it has this sort of... This attitude of smartness that makes it worse.
This pattern of, this is real, this really is this
and it's clever, and that makes it worse.
Yeah, you're right, okay. Yeah. My second worst film of 2009 was, appropriately enough, perhaps 2012, film 2012, which had virtually nothing to recommend it. Virtually nothing. And I say virtually because I will concede that the special effects were very special. They were, the computer-generated, whatever you call it, CGI. What's the I bit? Images. Computer-generated images carried to the nth degree. But what you find when you watch that film is, for the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you think, gosh, this is good, and then it completely wears off. It's like a sort of a sedative, but they only sedate you for 10 minutes. And after that, it's kind of this raging beast, appalled at how awful and boring and silly and exploitative, at least tries to be, this film is.
That's it?
Yeah, it really is a lousy film.
The other thing about the effects is it disengages you from the story, which should be a very powerful, emotional, moving kind of, you know, at the end of the world, all these people are dying, but the effects just throw up this wall of, compared to something like Avatar, where the effects and the story and emotions are better intertwined.
Good point. Good point. Because in 2012, you know, billions of people are wiped out, but you don't care. Who cares? Whereas, of course, in Avatar, a small tribe of Navis are threatened, and you care a lot.
But you're engaged, exactly. Yeah. So
even though they're 10 feet tall and are blue and have tails.
I don't have a problem with that. Do you?
No.
Don't get us in trouble. I also toyed with 2012, but again, to me, it was, I think the effects are worth giving it a certain pass because the effects were quite good, and the story just didn't bother me neither here nor there.
Boring.
Boring, don't care.
So
I was in, I was out. My number 2 is, and this is a holdover from the summer, but it offends me so much, is Land of the Lost.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I really hated this movie. It had some effects that were stupid and inappropriate. It had a horrible script, plot, story, whatever. It doesn't even, those words are not worthy of what that mess was.
You went with Max, didn't you?
And I took Max, so there was the whole element of the way it was sort of marketed as a family-friendly movie, which it was not. And I just hated myself for having seen this, let alone have taken Max to it. It was the biggest pile of crap. I can say crap. Well, I just did. Almost the biggest pile of crap of the summer.
All right, now it's hard to pick the worst movie of 2009. There was such richness in the bad movie field. But I picked to me, there was a clear winner. In fact, this film would probably win the prize for worst movie ever made, possibly.
Ever. I know what you
Well, certainly worst serious Hollywood feature ever made. And it is, of course, Transformers 2, Revenge of the Fallen. There's so little... words fail me. It is a really bad movie. I think in our review of it, we may have said that the special effects, the Transformer thing, was sort of interesting for a split second.
But that's all you got to see of it was
that's all you got to see.
Because everything was all mashed.
You know, I'm not going to rehash all the criticisms we made of it in our original review, which you can take a look at. But Transformers 2, you suck. You really suck. Worst movie of 2009. Possibly of
your life?
Of my life, the decade, the century. And for you?
Well, it was in my top 3 of the summer, but again, I let it go for a couple of reasons. One is I knew you'd mention it, so I wanted to make more use of all our slots.
Yeah, okay.
And so you didn't let me down, so I thought I'd let you take care of that one. It's also maybe a generational thing. I mean, I hated it too. But the other thing that gave me pause was that I also thought to myself, because I liked the first one, and I thought to myself, well, what did I really expect out of the Transformers sequel? I mean, it could have been much better, but at the end of the day, I couldn't be as offended by it because I just don't know how it could have been much better. So my number 1, and this is something that I didn't review but have since seen since the summer, and there's no way I could deny this pick.
Okay.
It was a standout, no-brainer. The worst film of the year for me was G.I. Joe.
Oh, yeah. I didn't see G.I. Joe. I was saved the torture and the awfulness of G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe makes Transformers 2 look like
War and Peace.
Schindler's List. Yeah. I mean, the nuance of character and story and directing. G.I. Joe was just, on every level, the biggest stinker you could ever imagine of this year, hands down.
Well, God save us from G.I. Joes for 2010, but I suspect there will be some competition for G.I. Joe in the year to come.
Do you think?
Anyway, it's the last day of 2009. We thank all our viewers. We started doing these reviews in, what, April maybe?
Yeah.
I think
this is our first year.
Yes, we've got some with over 4,000 hits. We've got about 400, close to 400 subscribers, so it seems to be catching on. Yeah. We're going to keep doing it.
Thanks to everybody, and you know, just like best and worst, thanks to our detractors as well, because it keeps it interesting.
Yeah. My favorite comment from our detractors, which were many, our top comment from our detractors was that we, Gab and Dad, are arrogant fools. So here you go, arrogant fools signing off.